Well, we wouldn't know that because summer school's not over till I think next Friday, and then they have finals. But I feel good about where we are academically. We had our best semester in the spring since I've been here. And we can check it with Brian Davis. I think we're looking at 85% graduation rate this year. So I feel really good about where we are. The problem you've got at Texas, finals are really hard. So sometimes you all find out when one's academically ineligible, when I do, because he was in great shape going into the final. It's 50% of his grade. He didn't do well on it, so all of a sudden we're out there practicing him, and the next minute we find out he's not eligible. So and then they have a chance to appeal, and so that process happens. But right now we feel like we're in good shape. And I thought, did I not say everybody came back? Everybody is here, yes. So I thought I said that. I must have missed it. Jared he is released to practice with his shoulder, and that was the concern. He has not been able to get to all of the heat practices because they were limited on some of his running because of his shoulder outside, so his rehab's done inside. So the way I understand it, he will be released to practice, but he will be limited like a Trey Allen, and they will monitor the amount of work that he gets until he can get more used to the heat. They've done that today, and I don't have that yet. We'll have it tonight. But they did. Jeff does it all summer. So Jeff Madden has done a great job with us, and it's a good question, Kirk. When a young man comes in as a freshman, he weighs him, and he does his height, his weight, and his body fat. He actually takes a picture with them in shorts with their shirt off, and he takes 2 or 3 different shots of how they look. And then they monitor that every semester that they're here. And they can give us a running report of like I will know tonight, the body fat of every player on our team, and if it's gone up or down over the last year. And you can really tell who's worked and who has not. So it's amazing how much information they can give you now without you seeing a guy out there. But we'll have those tonight.
Talk a little bit about the anxious young quarterbacks. How about anxious coaches and dealing with those guys? And when do you? How big will the scrimmages, I guess, be big if you want to still keep open the option of redshirting one?
Yes, we will have to look at practicing differently because we've got a lot of inexperienced guys. So we may do more live scrimmaging than we have in the past. I think we usually have 3, but we may have some mixed into the other practices. And you've still got to watch it because a young guy can get real tired and he can get hurt more easily than an older one that knows how to practice and knows the deal. But we'll have to look at all that now. Our staff's really excited. It's fun to have had the same staff together for 2 years. We haven't lost anyone in the building for 2 years, I don't think. So it's been really good that our staff's pumped and excited. And we know we've got some really tough games this year. We've got some traditionally we haven't done very well in. And at the same time, we've got some inexperienced players. So those are all good challenges for coaches.
After what happened in the Pasadena game with Garrett coming on, do you feel like it's more important to play your backup quarterback more often in clutch moments?
No, I felt it's a good question, Kirk. I felt like it's more important that you have a better running game because you can take pressure off the backup quarterback when he comes in. You're not going to play a backup quarterback enough to get him ready to start unless you're just beating everybody to death. When Vince played that year, if Colt had been playing, Vince was out of the game usually by midway through the 3rd quarter. But if you're playing in some tight games, I mean, you got to win now. And but that's where I think the running game needs to improve. And we need to be able to use it to take some pressure off these 2 young quarterbacks because you don't want them to have to go win the game by themselves. And Garrett's not that experienced. People have had a lot of discussion about the running game and what does that mean. All we want to do is be able to run it when we need to run it and take some pressure off the quarterback. We're not going to line up in 2 tight ends and an I formation and a tight wing and run off tackle for 3 hours. I mean, that's not the purpose. But we would like to have the ability to run downhill when we want to and take over a game on the ground, and we haven't been able to do that probably really for the last 2 years.
Would you like to redshirt one of the freshman quarterbacks?
I haven't talked to Greg today because it's all happened so fast, but normally the progression would be that Garrett plays, someone else plays behind him, you travel a third one, he gets some work, but he redshirts. And don't hold me to that because we haven't discussed it, but that's what I would think. And the scary thing for us, but the fun thing for those two kids is right now you would say they're dead even. So we've got a month to let them separate and compete and see who does the best in practice. What else?
Talk about Earl Thomas and how you make up for his loss.
Yes, it was funny after the draft, or the season, not after the draft, but before spring practice, Will and Dwayne Aquino were sitting in there watching cut-ups one day, and I walked in and they said, "Coach, Earl Thomas was really good." I said, "Well, he's a first-round draft choice, so I think somebody else must have thought he was good too." But you know, when he was walking on the field 2 years ago, we didn't know that. We didn't know. So he stepped up and made those plays. Even the second year, he just got better and better and better and better. So there's another Earl Thomas stepping up, and it's time for Christian Scott and Nolan Brewster and Kenny Vaccaro to step up and be in that spot along with Blake Gideon, and Blake needs to step it up another notch because it's his third year. And that's why you need to be consistently good. You lose a Jamal Charles, you lose Vince Young, you lose Jermichael Finley, you lose Earl Thomas. Those are guys you didn't know you were going to lose. So you're not ready to replace them. So what you've got to do is the program has to replace them, in my estimation. You've got to have guys that step up and play better than people thought they could before we started. Yes, I think our secondary can be as good as we've had. I'm really excited about it. And it helps alleviate some of our problems up front, because if you can play man-to-man, you can play those safeties tighter, and that'll help you in the run game as well.
Well, Barrett Matthews and Greg Smith, he has to do the same things, or do they have different kind of strengths to complement each other?
They do have different kind of strengths. Greg Smith is more like 250, 260. He's played inside. He's a blocker that has good hands. He does not have the great speed and is not a guy that stretches the field. Barrett Matthews, I think, ran a 10.5, 10.600 meters at North Shore in high school, and he can block, but he's more 240, 245. So that's where your H-back tight end comes in, when you can move a big guy and have him block and leak out and catch, or you can spread the field more and get down the field with a guy like Barrett. It's one thing. That's another thing we've got to separate. We've got too many backs that we're looking at. We need to separate it and get some backs that are defined and move forward. And today that would be Trey Newton and Fozzie. And then the other guys have got to make their place. And we're going to look at that. You obviously have room now for an H-back with the big guys, so they can play tailback and H-back, because there's enough similarities in the backfield with their protections, and a lot of the protections are similar to what they had when they were in the shotgun. So we can play a Cody at H-back, we can play a Chris Whaley at H-back, because they're both big kids. But I also want to go back through my numbers tonight and see how their weights are, and see how they work this summer, and see if the body weight's down, and then watch them run before we start making that decision. We've also got to figure out where Marco Cobb plays. He was a quarterback. He wants to play on offense. So do you put him at tailback? Do you put him at wide receiver? Or do you put him at H-back? Because he could really play any of those three. And we've got to try to make a very good decision in a short period of time if he's going to play early about where he would play, so he can start learning immediately.